My dream job was always to work for L'Oréal, to put on all the abribus of Luxembourg the word boring and elitist, and then explain why we're not like that. We try to take risks every day. That's what you're obsessed about. And here, of course, you care about the sales, but you care so much more about the mission. Yes, we're a public establishment, but actually we think a lot like a startup. I think the energy you bring is also the energy that spreads to your team.
Hello and welcome to the new episode of When Art Meets Leadership. I'm Alina, your host, and if you're in Luxembourg, probably you know where I am because it's hard to mistake those beautiful columns with anything else. I'm in the Philharmonie, the iconic institution of Luxembourg, and if you're not here, this place is definitely worth a separate visit. And this place is very special for me. It's like home. I keep coming all the time, and it's such a beautiful opportunity to talk to Aliki Zachariadis, who is head of marketing and digital in Philharmonie. We'll talk about what she brought from the world of luxury to the world of creative and public institution, what kind of rebranding Philharmonie did a few years ago. We'll also talk about Aliki's story, her leadership, what it takes to be a mother and have this role of an amazing transformation of that Philharmonie went through. So let's just go and meet Aliki. Hi.
Hi, Lina.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Beautiful place. Hello, Aliki, and thank you so much for being a guest of this episode of When Art Meets Leadership. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So we are sitting in Philharmonie in a very beautiful office. Maybe you spend a couple of words about what this room is about. Office maybe is not the right even word. Mm-hmm. And then I would like to ask you to start maybe with your story. So what you do here, you are head of marketing and communications, but you were doing something different before 2022 when you joined Philharmonie, and we'll talk about also your amazing work that you did here. So yes, let's start maybe where we are, what you are doing, and what's your story, which brought you here.
So we're in the dramaturgie's office. They kindly lend me the office to have this chat. And so the dramaturgie is basically the office where all the publications are written. So we're surrounded by all the wonderful books that team creates. So it's a wonderful office to be in and to welcome you here.
Thank you.
And so about my story. So I joined 4 years ago. I now head up the marketing and digital division. And prior to that, I was in London for 20 years. Working in a completely different industry. I was working in cosmetics, I was working in fashion, spirits. And before that, I was born and raised in Luxembourg. So I spent 18 years here before going away to study in London. So coming back here was very much coming back home, even though I had never experienced the Philharmonie because it was built whilst I was in London. So it was very much coming back, rediscovering the Philharmonie and discovering this completely new world, but always staying in marketing.
So you were working in some luxury brands. What was your story? So you did London School of Economics, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you graduated. Mm-hmm. What you graduated, the Faculty of Business, as far as I remember. Yes. And then you started working in some luxury brands, in cosmetics, in wines. So it's quite a change also from London to Luxembourg, even though that I know you were raised here, part of the European Union family. Mm-hmm. So what brought you first to the companies where you worked after the London School of Economics? Why did you want to do business? And how come you accepted the offer from Philharmonie?
So it was always my dream to go and work in marketing and in cosmetics in particular. Actually, my dream job was always to work for L'Oréal. And this was
your dream job,
yes,
really?
From the age of 6. Okay. Some people want to become astronauts, architects. I just wanted to do marketing for L'Oréal. And I still remember, walking with my dad when I was 6, and people would ask, what do you want to be? And he was like, well, ask her. And I would say, this is what I want to do. And I think it came because my dad, he was very interested in marketing, so he would talk to me about it. And I used to watch a lot with my family this French TV show called Capital on M6. and it had a lot of times topics around marketing and big companies and how they develop their product, and I was fascinated by it. I was also fascinated by all my mom's beauty products, and I was just playing with it as a child. So combining the two, that's how, you know, I had this ambition. And so I was really thinking from a very early age, you know, how do I get to that dream? And so going to London, studying at the LSE was sort of way in. And so
you really kept the dream from the age of 6 until you were going to this.
I was really aiming. I said, how do I get to that? And so
that's an amazing story.
That's how I got to the LSE, and I participated in a competition that the LSE was partnering with L'Oréal. Obviously, I knew about it. And so I did this competition and got into the 3 finalists. And so at the back of that, I got an internship with them. And so I started working there when I was 19 years old. And then when I graduated, they offered me a job. And so that was my first job. I was working on some incredible brands, particularly at the very beginning. It was in fragrances. I was working on Ralph Lauren, Victor and Rolf. So it was really a dream come true. And what a wonderful school for marketing, because you learn a lot at university, but you learn so much more when you're actually doing it.
And L'Oréal is known for the amazing marketing school, yes.
A lot of actually, you know, we might talk about later leadership, but a lot of the things that I learned about leadership actually came from L'Oréal. And then I went on and I worked for different companies. Most recently, before I moved to the Philharmonie, I was working for a Catalan company called Puig, again on some incredible brands.
You also worked in Pernod Ricard?
I also worked with Pernod Ricard on some spirits, working on travel retail. So lots of
an amazing
different
segment as well.
experiences. Fascinating segment. I was doing a lot of innovation for them. And then coming back to Luxembourg, a lot of people said, why culture? Why music? You came from such a different world. But actually, my mom was, she was a musician. She was a music teacher, and she was also an opera singer. And so I was always in the world of music. As a child, I used to play the violin, the piano. I was in the youth orchestra at school.
Okay.
So there was always this link with music. And so the ability to then, you know, discover this world from a marketeer's point of view was really interesting. And of course, I'm not a musicologist like the ladies that sit in this office. So I bring a new perspective into this world. But it's been great, coming back and doing something completely different.
So there is an important personal link with the music through your family and through your own experience as a musician. I always think actually for kids, being exposed to music and playing the instrument, even if you don't become a musician, it brings something that once will play some role in the life. I always believed in this. I didn't know the story, and it's very nice.
Definitely build your creativity, your potentially problem-solving skills. So I do think it's important to expose children from a very early age with music.
So when you come here, it was, I suppose, different to work for public sector compared to the private sector, probably. And also you were working, started working for a creative institution and no longer for a pure business company, though that the luxury brands always have this creative aspect, especially in marketing. So how did you feel about it? What was different from your work perspective, maybe? What kind of skills did you feel were not matching? What did you have to learn?
So I think there were definitely some big differences. Like in the private sector, you're very market share focused. Every day, that's what you're obsessed about. And here, of course, you care about the sales, but you care so much more about the mission and what you have to bring to people. So that's quite a big shift. Big companies have huge organizational layers. So, to take a decision, you need to do countless presentations to convince each other that this is a good idea. Here we're a lot more leaner, a flat hierarchy, so decisions go really fast. I always say that, yes, we're a public establishment, but actually we think a lot like a startup. Things go really fast. We get to have an idea, and within, a few weeks we can test it. We can see if it works or change it if it doesn't. We are not afraid to take risks. So There are a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. And of course, me coming from the luxury segment, luxury brands are almost these inaccessible brands. And here it's the complete opposite. We're really trying to make ourselves accessible to all. So I'd say those are the big differences.
That's very interesting that you mentioned this, because indeed what usually you think marketing is trying to create about the luxury brands, about the cosmetics, something that you have something exceptional and accessible. And it's really even the word luxury that we attach to it, right? Whether it's a perfume, a wine, or something else. And classical music, which is I think the core, classical music, jazz is the core of what Philharmonie does, even that it's not only what you do. It's always perceived already as elitist. There are also people who think I can't go there because I won't understand what's happening, even though that I don't agree personally. So, and this rebranding that you did, I think it made lots of noise in Luxembourg. At least I heard a lot about it, that there was a new agency that came. And you also tried to make it sort of more accessible and say, come, it's open for everyone, right? And I can personally see the change in audience. I don't know if it's just a general trend or the campaign that you did made it roll, but maybe tell us more. How did you come to this idea? What was behind it? How was the process? What kind of results do you see?
So before we dived into the whole rebranding, we said, let's talk to customers. Let's talk to people who come here. Let's talk to people who don't come here to really understand what are the drivers. I think in marketing, it's very important because often as a marketeer, you just want to rebrand things because it's exciting. But if you just dive into it directly, it doesn't lead to the right results. So we really took the time, and what we found is exactly what you said. Those stereotypes are true. People thought, or they were like, you were elitist, not for me, too serious, too boring. So we really played on that. And when we did the whole rebranding, we looked at every single touch point, because a lot of people think a rebranding is a logo, but it's not a logo. The image goes through so much more. It goes through how you're perceived on social media. So we launched our TikTok account to become more accessible, to talk in a different way. We changed our tone of voice. So the way we speak to our audience is a lot more inclusive. We try to also speak in a simpler language to make it accessible to people who don't know about music. So there's a lot of different touch points that we touched upon. You're right about the campaign. When we launched our first image campaign with the whole rebranding, we actually played on those stereotypes. So I still remember being in the boardroom with Stefan, and he's our director. And I said, I want to launch this campaign that plays on stereotypes, and I want to put on all the abribus of Luxembourg the word boring and elitist, and then explain why we're not like that. And he said, great, go for it. It was quite a bold move because we had never done anything like that, but it got people talking. And I think slowly we started changing the perception. People started commenting on our social media, I didn't know the Philharmonie had humor. And so we could see the effect of that whole tonality change. And we saw the results. So over the past 4-5 years, we lowered the average age from around 70 to around 40. So we really see new audience members coming in, younger audience members. And I always judge about how many people clap in between movements in a concert, if you have a new audience or not. And we get a lot more complaints about people clapping, so we know.
And you hate it, so it makes you happy.
It makes me happy secretly, but I understand the frustration as well. So we're trying to tackle that at the moment, pleasing everyone. But yes, it's a good sign.
I would never thought about this. I remember perfectly the campaign. It was really bold. And it was really, and the materials, the way now you make these programs, which I also want to talk about, the description of the play that you are going, of the piece that you are going to hear, the way you actually write still parts in the classical dramaturgist way, but there are also parts which are very interesting. For example, when I come with my son, we always read those, like, what should I listen to? Really, even if you like music and you're used to go, it's always nice to go through those, and you always learn something. I saw that in the last week I was on the concert, and there was what AI says about the concert, and I found it very fascinating actually. Somehow it drew my attention, so I think it works. Mm-hmm. How come this idea came to you, and what are you trying to achieve with that as well?
So, two different ideas. So the first one is the pages that are sort of simplify the program. So we call them the center pages. They're in English, actually, because our program is in French and German, and we thought, let's add this third language to really be inclusive to everyone. And we have a wonderful marketing editor that really comes in to complement the dramaturgy's work. And so she writes those center pages with some freelancers. And we really try to make it approachable. Like if you don't have time or the energy to read anything else in the program, these are the 2 pages you should read. And then Stefan loves a bit of innovation, and he's very innovative. And he said last year, why don't we, we're testing AI, why don't we use AI? Mm-hmm. And so we tried to think of different ideas of how we could use AI for our programs. And seeing we were in the middle of Taste the Music, and we had all these ideas around cooking and blending the world of gastronomy and music, we thought, why don't we ask AI what would be a typical menu? If mm-hmm. this piece was a dish, what would it be? Audience member discover something new that they wouldn't have thought about asking AI. So we tried to come up with innovative ideas that sort of sparks people's imaginations.
Very interesting. Maybe you want to mention the We Chef also that you just did, now that we're talking about the recipes.
It's exactly, I mean, blending, I love going into different worlds that have nothing to do with what we do and see what synergies we can find. And so we paired some of our musicians from the Luxembourg Philharmonic with top chefs in Luxembourg, and then we created this beautiful recipe book, We Chef. And it's got about 20 recipes, and you discover, what makes music creation and cooking in a kitchen. What are the similarities? What does these 2 arts forms have in common? And then you also get a beautiful recommendation of what to listen to whilst you're cooking. So it's a lovely book if you haven't.
I don't have it yet, yes, but I will definitely get it. And it's interesting because for this podcast, when I was thinking about what kind of guests I would like to invite, I immediately thought about a few stellar chefs. Mm-hmm. I have a friend in Italy who has 3 Michelin stars, because I was thinking the way they use art, the way they design the dishes, the way they present it, the way they make references constantly to different artists, the way they decorate the space. There's so much art there that for me, gastronomy is definitely one of the forms of art. Yeah. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one that...
And they're so passionate as musicians are.
Exactly. And actually pairing it with the music to listen when you cook is a very interesting way to go about it. Very interesting. And actually you said we talked with our customers. Who are your customers actually, and what are you trying to build through your customers? What are the KPIs for you?
So when we think of our audience members, we always have 2 hats on. There's the people that come here more often than I do, that really feel at home here. They know so much about classical music or jazz music. They regularly come here, and they're our most loyal customers. And for them, our strategy is very much to enrich their concert experience, ensuring that their whole experience, from booking tickets to coming here, the F&B, the parking, everything is seamless. So we work a lot on that. And how do they get more than just the concert? We have this program of Résonance, which are conferences before the concert. So we try to, offer them things that could really create that beautiful experience. And then we have customers that are less regulars, but we want to ensure that they come back more than once. They're culturally, they're open to culture. And so we really try to make sure that we attract them, first of all, because there's still a lot of people that don't come here. So come for the first time. And then if they've come once, trying to make them as repeat customers. And I think those customers, because they don't know so much about classical music or jazz music, we need to guide them on this journey, make things exciting for them, make things appealing for them. But it's a very different way of tackling it. And a lot of brands just have a very single-minded customer for us, we really have two. And so we always think with our two hats, like, do we do something for this group now, or do we do this something for that? And often our marketing campaigns, they're more for the people we're trying to attract, and our publications and direct marketing is more for the other group. So we try to always have a different strategy for both.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And what is that you're measuring? You mentioned the age of because you see also how your campaigns work. And who are the people that are coming, which would be a natural segmentation of the customers. What else what else is important for you actually?
How often they come.
Okay.
We love to see if people are only interested in one genre, or if they like mixing. We recently introduced a subscription where people can mix and match genre, because in the past it was very fixed.
Great subscription.
So we're seeing, more and more of an uptake on that, because people like to explore in different areas. So that's interesting for us, or to really try and understand what are people interested in. And I think more and more we also want to explore how can AI help us make that journey for them more personalized. I'm always fascinated by Netflix and how Netflix recommends the right movies for you. So I would love to really see how can AI help us in making personalized recommendations.
We had a professor who came for an INSEAD alumni event. He was actually talking about this and the Netflix and the recommendation. And there was a big discussion because some people were saying, I hate those recommendations because I want to see something new, and it never offers me something new. and there were some people that were saying, yeah, it's actually good because then I get the things that I like. So there are also some segmentation. And the professor was actually saying most people, they actually like to watch same type of things, or at least that's the perception. So it should be working. But it's never perfect, So you still have to use your brain to go and watch something. But
I guess the difference also with classical music is that these culturally interested audience members often don't know the names of the artists coming here. So it's hard for them to pick something. Yeah. And that's what I often hear. People come to me and say, Aliki, I don't know what to pick. Help me navigate your season. What should I come? And so I think this is where our tools could help.
Yeah, for sure.
Without narrowing people down into just one thing. But still, our mission is to, showcase a whole wide different repertoire and open the hearts and minds, we always say. So I think that's important that we don't just take them down.
And very often people who like music also go for the same type of the music events, and also opening it even if you keep going, opening other types of events where maybe you don't know the names because it's not usually the genre that you listen, but you can discover something new is also very interesting. So I'm sure there is a big number of people like this as well.
Yes, and that's where our fixed subscriptions are interesting, because we always try to include things that people might not pick in an open subscription. So it's sort of forcing them to discover something new. And that's why we're still holding on to those and not just letting people freely pick whatever they want.
I was thinking you do it for convenience, because it's very convenient just to say, yes, I continue. But it's also true, and I never noticed that there's always an element of surprise there.
I like to call them your musical voyage, because it's very curated by our artistic planning team. They really think through, the journey of through the season, what you will discover in a very similar genre. But it's true that you might have one concert that you would have never picked, and so you still go to it with an open mind and then discover what's there.
It's new for me. I was thinking there's more scheduling behind,
So you can try one.
Yes, but it's also, I have my subscription and there's always a surprise element there. It's true, and I tried Pick and Mix also. But Pick and Mix, you really mix what you want. But the fixed subscription, there's always something that I wouldn't choose myself. But it's always a good surprise to get there. So it's good to know. It's interesting, yes. So it's good to know something, thought that you would like something and you try new. So you're really making a habit, and there is a huge educational part in what you do actually as an institution, and you specifically, because you just open minds and hearts to something people wouldn't necessarily try it themselves. Right?
And to all types of audience. I mean, you spoke about education. Children are also very important. We try, from babies to get them into the house and exposed to music. So, over 50% of what we do is for children and families.
Yeah.
And so that's very important to make sure this new generation is very much exposed to it.
And I can attest to this because my personal experience was I started going before I had my kid. And then when there was a small break, when he was very small, no one was going. Yes. But I think it's a typical journey because then when kids are very small, you just don't want to add something. Yeah. And then since he was 2, he's 9 now, we started coming with the first subscriptions, which was amazing. It was such a joy to be there, and he could do whatever he wanted and touch the instruments, listen to the music. And then we just progressed with different subscriptions, and now, as I mentioned, I'm taking him to the normal adult concerts, and he more or less knows what to do, and never claps between the. He's the one who doesn't clap. Yes, but I think what is great is that you really open Philharmonie to this educational aspect of making this place a home for kids. So that when they become adults, it's very normalized to come to the classical concert. Whether you know who is playing or not, whether you understand the piece and know the history or not, it's just part of the life experience. This is what you do.
I mean, I've noticed it with my own children because the first time I brought them to an orchestral concert, I was sat next to the door in case we had to run and they were screaming. But the more we come, the more they learn, how to behave and how to enjoy it, and they really sort of sit there in awe of the orchestra. Yeah. So you can really see how the more you come, the more children get used to it and enjoy it.
Yeah, same probably with other cultural experiences, but with the music, because of this necessity to behave, that for kids is not always typical and usual and easy. Yeah, you really build the habit, and that's a huge part actually, because now maybe more and more cultural institutions are doing that, but there were times those kids programs didn't exist, and that's so important.
And then we also have a lot of programs where children can participate and they don't have to sit still. We have this beautiful Let's Sang, which tries to make children want to sing in schools. So we fill up the hall with different classes, and there's about 1,000 children that sing together. And it's one of my favorite projects, seeing that come together.
Okay, amazing. Let's talk maybe about this entrepreneurship aspect, because you mentioned you work as a startup, and I know that's not the first time that you work as a startup, because you won in Pernod Ricard, I think, the prize for the entrepreneurship contest. I couldn't find what was it about, so I'm really curious to know more about what have you done. What kind of skills you developed or had already, how it's part of you, I think it's part of your character probably, and your personality, the way you approach things, and how it helps you today to also do what you do.
It was probably one of the best experiences in my career. There was this entrepreneurship competition at Pernod Ricard, and it's a bit like, for those who know Dragon's Den, it was very much like that. Anyone could pitch an idea, and then you kept progressing, pitching, and then there was final 10 people, and then I was one of the 3 projects selected. And my idea at the time was trying to build sustainability in the world of spirits, because everything was packaged in glass, and everyone thinks glass is amazing, but actually glass is very heavy to transport. And so there was this whole thinking about how could we reinvent the way spirits are being consumed. What was fascinating about the experience was that they taught me a lot about design thinking and innovation, and we had a lot of coaching along the side, which I brought into my career afterwards in my job today. But you had very limited funds, and by the time you got to the final pitch, you had to have a proof of concept, and you have to have a proof of concept without being able to build a product. So they taught you how to think creatively, and I remember creating a fake bottle, going in Heathrow Airport, putting it on the shelves, and you pretended you had this product, and you would see how people would interact. And this is the kind of thinking that they taught you, which you don't get in normal corporate life. And I think that's what I also brought here is my biggest learning, which they had told me from the start of that competition, was don't fall in love with your idea, fall in love with your customer insight. And so that has always followed me through, because it's true. Sometimes people think, I have this amazing idea, and they push and they push and they push. It might not be the best idea, but if actually you take a step back and you think, why am I doing this? What do customers want? There's potentially 10 different ideas that can solve that problem.
The problem, yeah.
So you try one, and then if that one doesn't work, you change and you try something else. But as long as you're confident that your customer insight is strong, you know you'll find something really interesting. And so this whole approach is really useful to have.
Amazing. You know, I was talking with someone from the Business Angels, who is a business angel, and at some point I have an idea of a product, and I was explaining it, and he said, I don't care about the idea. You just explain me what kind of problem you resolve. If I think that it's an existing problem that people will really be happy that you resolve for them, then whatever you propose is fine. But about the idea per se, I don't care. It really is the same about what you are telling. That's very interesting, yes. And how you use this approach today in Philharmonie?
Well, we try to take risks. So first, we really try to uncover a customer insight. I really try to push that we don't just launch product or launch new ideas without knowing that we're solving an actual problem or that we're going to be enriching the customer experience. So really understanding our customers is very important. So I always tell my team, let's really understand. And then we're not scared of launching the idea and seeing if it works. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. We'll try something else.
So the design thinking approach,
Absolutely.
yes, and experimenting, which I also believe strongly in.
Yeah, and not taking too long to launch. Like you shouldn't work 2 years on perfecting something without knowing if it's going to work. So let's do a proof of concept very quickly, and then we can perfect.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting approach.
Great. And there's something that I wanted to move on, and then we can maybe spend a couple of words on the Fondation Aimé as well. There's this idea of inclusion and excellence. And I think every organization strives for being excellent. And I think here for you, it's also seen for Philharmonie, it's also seen in a sense that you want to have this excellence of the performance, because that's what people are actually expecting when they come. Also excellence in the production, because there's so much work behind the scenes of everything. So to make this happen, as you say, the whole experience, which is always smooth, so that's what you are striving for. But you also want to be inclusive, to give space for different lives, different capabilities, different views. So how do you see this is happening in Philharmonie? How can you achieve both, actually?
Well, first, quality is one of our values. So I don't think you can run a concert hall and an orchestra without aiming for that high standard. And I think maybe that's the difference with where I come from. Because in big, for example, cosmetics companies, a lot of the focus is on marketing. So it's more on the end of the chain. And yes, the products I'm sure are amazing, but it doesn't really matter. Like it's the marketing that's going to do it all. Here, it's the complete opposite. We start with the product. The most important thing is the art. It's the orchestra that's going to be on stage. It's the performers. And we're just there to, sell the tickets, make sure that people are aware of it, or make sure that it's accessible to all. So if you don't have that high quality, people are not going to come back. So that's, I think, number one. And then it really is the opposite of luxury in terms of we try to make it accessible. We don't try to create that distance. We don't try to set the prices really high. We have a pricing policy that really is open to all.
It's very democratic, yes.
You can come with the €50 if you have the culture pass, €10 if you're a student or under 30. So it really is accessible to everyone. And then, you spoke a bit about the Fondation Aimé, but I love what they do because they really try to bring the music to people who can't come here or people who wouldn't normally be, in touch with music and integrate music in their lives. And so, we really have the people who come here to normal concerts, and then the Fondation Aimé also takes it to people who don't. So we're all obsessed about this mission of making music accessible to all. It's very important.
It's an amazing idea. It's an amazing mission. I always support Fondation Aimé. I always invite everyone to have a look and support Fondation Aimé also, because that's really something going back to education, inclusivity, something that can really change, I think, lives of people in one way or another, or at least make it make it much better.
Yeah, because people often don't realize the impact music can have on lives, but it has such a big impact.
Yeah.
And so I think their mission is very important.
Yes. And what about your personal leadership journey? Because for sure you have a team that you are managing here. And for sure there is a big part that is visible, but there's also a big part that is invisible. What are your leadership principles? What kind of leader are you?
Well, first I'd say the more you progress in your career, the less marketing you do, the more leadership you do. And it's true that you never realize that at the start of your career. But I still love to, whenever I can, be hands-on because I don't want to lose the marketing part. But it's true that there's a huge amount in leading a team that people don't see. In terms of my style, like I said at the start, L'Oréal taught me a lot, and I was really marked by this comment, which was actually on my first day. It was my induction, and this HR director came in and spoke to us, and she said, you will learn in your career that leadership is a bit like being a swimming coach. You need to walk alongside the swimming pool with your students swimming in the pool. You don't swim on their behalf. You're not there, holding them. You're just throwing them in the pool. And then if you see them sinking, you need to go and get them and help them out. But otherwise, let them be. Yeah. And it's really stuck to me. And I really hope that my team sees it like that I try to let them be in charge. I let them lead their projects, and I'm there if they need help or if they need me to unblock a situation, they can come to me. But otherwise, they're the ones doing the incredible work. All this change is thanks to them. And then the second part of my leadership style was often called a swan. And the swan is someone who is quite calm on the outside, but underneath is, you have the little legs swimming fast. So I think the energy you bring is also the energy that spreads to your team. So it doesn't matter how stressed we are, if the concert isn't sold, if this and that. If there's a change in soloist, I always try to remain calm, and we know we're going to sort it out. There's no need to panic. That's just going to get everyone stressed out.
Yeah, so showing this ground to your team, this grounded behavior, so that they know also. I think it comes with experience also, because everything is going to be solved in one way or another, and panicking doesn't help. It's interesting what you described because of the swimming coach, because my business school professor, Susan Goldsworthy, she has this frame of caring and daring, which I always use in coaching also that I do. So it's really about caring about people, knowing you have their back, but also letting them there a bit, and because that's the only way for them to progress as well and develop. That's amazing, yes. Very nice. And you are a mother of 3 young kids. And there was a Mother's Day, and I read your LinkedIn post, which was very beautiful post about what the motherhood is for you, and that you should be kind, I think, to yourself. I really like this statement that you put at the end. And I think there's lots of bias towards motherhood in a sense in the organizations, and this bias is from 2 sides. One is that you cannot have it all, so at some point you have to decide what you want to do, career or being a mother. But it's also a bias of not having it all, of having it all actually, so that you can do everything and be everywhere. And but I think it's always about making choices. How is it for you actually? Because you really embody both in a very nice way.
I always knew I wanted a big family and also a career. I always knew I wouldn't want to pick, and actually I don't hide myself when I say that when I was on maternity leave and just being a mother, I felt the need to go back to work, or I felt the need to still do something. I am not made as a human being to just be at home. And I feel like my two roles really complement each other, and they make me a better person. And there's definitely things from motherhood you learn and you bring into your role. I think you're right. You can't have it all. So for me, I really have to prioritize, find my balance. When I'm at work, I'm fully dedicated to my job. And then there's these moments where I say, now I have to go and I have to pick up my kids. And I'm not going to apologize about it, and I'm going to be present at school plays and all these moments that are very important to them, and I'm going to be present for them. And then there's times when I need to come back to a concert, or there's things that I need to prioritize. So I think having, clear boundaries is important, and it's something that I always admired my dad about. He always worked until a certain time, and then he would come home and he would never speak about work, and I loved that. And he was so present with us. So I had really him as a role model in terms of balancing the two. And then I think there's multiple things that I do on a day-to-day to try and manage both, because in your head there's so many things that go on. You have the kids and everything you need to organize for them. I get so many emails from school every day, and then you have everything happening at work. So I try to always write everything down so they don't live in my head and stress me out. So that's my biggest learning, is just put it on my phone, or we have this board at home on the kitchen that plans everything for the family. So that's really important. And then be gentle. That was
be gentle. Yes,
be gentle. It was my manager when I was at Pooch that said it when I came back from my maternity leave, and I was already trying to be full speed in my job, and she said, just be gentle, take it easy. It's such a hard transition. People think having a child is a hard transition, but actually going back to work is even harder, because you really need to find your balance. And, you shouldn't feel guilty if you have some unread emails at the end of the day, as long as you've prioritized the most important ones. It's like, be good at 80%, and then the other 20%, you just need to pick what that 20% is.
Okay, so what I'm recapping as advice is not feeling guilt, knowing what you want. I can add myself, everything is just a phase, and it will all change.
I say that all the time as well.
Yeah, you just go through it, and what is actual today is no longer relevant tomorrow.
Yeah.
And be present in what you do. I think it's not spill too much of the personal life at work, in a sense that try to focus at work on those 80%. Once it's over, just be very present with the family and the fantastic role model as well. Because I'm not good at that very much. I talk a lot about work in the evening, but I think it's a fantastic advice, and I also write down everything. I think otherwise you just get lost completely, and it's too much. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to manage the lists of to-do things. But okay, it's you can do it all. So thank you very much. It's very good advice, and I'm sure watching you again embodying both roles so nicely and calmly is a very good experience as well. Yes.
Only time will tell if I do a good job in my motherhood role, but I really hope so.
No, it's the process that matters, not just the result.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's the only job where you only see, what happens
it's true.
much later in life. There's no guide to tell you, are you doing the right thing? No year-end evaluation, none of that. So
but it's also not 100% of what you do as a process.
Of course.
There's nature, nurture. I think, there's also. Okay. I will do now a short round of questions where you have to select one, and it's more fun way to close our conversations. And if you want to give a small motivation, it's also fine.
Yeah.
So what's your choice? Schubert, which you also used for your campaign, or which we'll explain is a very important event at the end of August for Luxembourg, so for those who are not in Luxembourg, or Philharmonie Foyer?
I would say Philharmonie Foyer, because it's much calmer and too much noise at the Schubert. As much as I love it, because I used to go as a child, the calmness of the Philharmonie Foyer.
I'm with you. Yes, on that. But yes, we all have to go there at the end of August, yes, with our kids. Okay, so crema at the intermission or coffee backstage?
Coffee backstage.
Coffee backstage.
Coffee backstage. Again, there's something about the backstage where you feel the tension of musicians, everyone's together. There's an amazing atmosphere.
I can imagine.
And I love coffee.
So what do you choose, Mother or Bad Bunny?
Oh, tough one. Well, right now, my 2-year-old, who can't quite talk yet, sings, and she only sings Bad Bunny. So that's on repeat in the car, so Bad Bunny.
That's an amazing choice. TikTok or Instagram?
I personally love TikTok. I feel like the algorithm knows me. I find the algorithm of TikTok incredible. Every time I open it, it's something different. I feel like it's just what I've been thinking or talking about. So
Really?
I love it.
Okay.
And it's my new Google search. I go there to research everything.
That's amazing. And you also have an interesting account for Philharmonie on TikTok with some very funny campaigns showcasing you as well. So
the team do an incredible job, and we always have a trainee that also brings new young ideas following the trend. So our editorial line is everything you don't see on our other social.
yeah.
So if you don't follow it, follow our TikTok account.
Follow TikTok account and Instagram as well. I like
And
Instagram,
Instagram as well.
yes, and it's also always nice to see what you post there. Yes. Thank you so much. It was
Thank
an amazing
you.
conversation. I learned a lot. I'm sure the listeners will learn a lot as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.